hey, I have something good for you today. But first, raise your hand if you have been personally victimized by Regina George. No, totally just kidding. But no, seriously, raise your hand if you have ever felt like you have been in a season where your work doesn't matter. Maybe you're at a job that you don't like, or maybe you don't have a job at all, you're a student, or you feel like your work doesn't really have a purpose and that it doesn't matter. I know exactly how you feel. I have been in seasons like that, and I am here to tell you a little truth bomb that God gave to me, and it has changed the game for me, seriously, and I hope that it does the same thing for you. So today I'm going to be talking about 2 Kings 5. You might be familiar with this story. I know that I was familiar with it, and I had read it several times, but the last time that I read it, God really revealed a small detail to me that had a huge impact. And so I'm going to share it with you today. So 2 Kings 5 is the story of Naaman and how he goes to the prophet Elijah and is cured of leprosy. So let's actually look at what's going on at this point in time. At this point in history, there is a division between territories. So there's the northern territories and the southern territories. And the northern territories is where Elijah was. The southern territories were going into the northern territories and taking people captive and bringing them back as slaves. So when we first read 2 Kings 5, we are opened up with a little description of Naaman. And basically we find out that he is the commander of the armies of Aram and that he is a high rank, highly respected man. And we are told that he is a great soldier, but he had leprosy. And now leprosy at this point in time was a nasty disease. No one wanted to be associated with you if you had leprosy, but this man was in a high rank and he had this disease. So if we keep reading to 2 Kings 5:2, it says, now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel. And she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, if only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. Okay, so this is the small detail that I want to talk to you about. So usually people would just keep on reading this and they would focus on that he was cured of leprosy and all of that good stuff. But when the last time I was reading this, God said, go back and pay attention to the servant girl. And these are the 3 things that he revealed to me when I went back and started looking at the details of the servant girl. First, the servant girl's name is not mentioned. And I think this is done on purpose because God was saying, as believers in God, our first identity should be that we are a servant of God. And I really love that her name is not mentioned in this story and that she's just known as the servant girl. I think that is such a detail that we need to understand because she was a servant girl and that was her job and her status. But above everything, she was a servant of God, which brings me to the second thing. She knew she was a servant for God, and she looked at the position that she was in. She looked at the circumstances that she was in, and she was serving God before she was serving Naaman and his wife. And she knew, as someone who believed in God, she was called to serve others and be a light for him. And that is exactly what she did. What brings me to my third thing is her character. Because let me tell you what. If I was in her shoes, it would not have been the same. And God really had me examine my heart about that because imagine being this girl, this young girl who was taken captive away from your family, away from your home, and then commanded to serve in the household of the person who captured you. I don't know about you, but I would not be serving him very humbly. I would be upset. I would be angry. I would be mad. And most people would want that person to pay for it, right? They would want revenge. They would want them to get even. I mean, that's just our natural sinful heart. And God really was like, look at her character. She was put in the worst circumstances, and she was still being a light for me. She was being a servant. That is what I called her to do. And she was serving me humbly. She had so much faith in me. She knew my power that she wanted for him to experience too. She knew that he suffered from this horrible disease, and she knew that I could cure him, and she knew that I could make an impact on him. And so she humbly served him and told him about me, regardless of what he had done to her. I don't know about you guys, but that was like really, really eye-opening for me. So if you keep reading, you know that he goes to Samaria, he sees the prophet Elijah, he dips 7 times in the Jordan River, and he comes to see the miracle of God. And that changes the game, guys. And this was a man in power. Like, this was a man who controlled all of the armies of basically the enemy. And now here he is seeing God move. Like, that's amazing. I cannot imagine what we would look like today if this servant girl had not humbly served God. Like, I can't even fathom it. In conclusion, what does this have to do with working? All right, there's 3 things I want you to take away from this video. First is your work matters. It does not matter how big. It does not matter how small. It matters. That's all. It matters. And when God calls you to do something, you need to do it humbly, just like she did. And then the second thing is that God places you in strategic places on purpose and for a purpose. I mean, I think this story speaks for itself, that he strategically placed her there for the purpose of being his light and being his servant, so that she could bring Naaman to him and so he could see the power of God. And then third, our work should be about serving God and serving others. And I know this one's a hard one, especially because we are prone to kind of be all about ourselves. And even though we say we're not, we are. But I know that sometimes we're always kind of like, well, I want to be in that new job, and I want that promotion, or I want this, and I want that. And we're looking at it as what we can gain versus what can the kingdom gain through us. And I think it's really important to understand that this servant girl was put in this circumstance that she had no control over, and that she knew she was serving God first. And by serving God, she innately serves others, because when you love God and you're serving him, an outflow of serving others happens. And I think that's really, really, really important to know. So yeah, I hope that this story was insightful for you and helpful for you. I know that when I realized this, it was like game changer for me, and that it was for you too. Again, remember, I am always cheering you on, and your work does matter. So get out there and get to it.